Hey everyone, welcome to Flint, Michigan, Flint Bishop International Airport. My name is Scott. I'm the guy who writes everything over at sandspotter.com, and I'm here to catch Allegiant Air flight number 1529 to Las Vegas. Now, this is going to be a lot better than it sounds because I'm going to be doing this in what they call a Legroom Plus seat, which is exactly what it sounds like. And not only that, I paid extra for Allegiant Extra, which is a package including things like priority boarding and a free snack and dedicated overhead bin space and stuff like that. Nothing fancy, but it's pretty much the best experience you can get on Allegiant Air these days. Anyway, this flight is scheduled to depart at 1:52 p.m., and in typical Allegiant form, it is already 20 minutes late, which is no big deal. I was kind of expecting this. And basically what it comes down to is that this is one of those plan for the worst and hope for the best kind of situations. It's all you can really do when flying Allegiant. Anyway, the Flint Bishop Airport is a really nice place to hang out. It's a little bit dated on the inside, but it is really clean, and the carpet is awesome. Very 90s, I think, which I don't mind at all. So, here is the Allegiant Air A320 that is going to be taking me to Las Vegas this afternoon. This aircraft is only 11 years old, which is fairly young for Allegiant, I think. This flight to Las Vegas is the longest flight out of Flint Bishop International Airport these days. And, gotta check and see if my bag fits. And it does. Success. Looks like I'm not going to have to pay extra, which is a good thing. But anyway, as I was just saying, this is the longest flight out of Flint by a long shot. Allegiant has some flights to Florida, I think, but going all the way out to Las Vegas, which is nearly a transcontinental flight, that's hard to beat in Flint these days. So, yeah, Allegiant Extra passengers got to board first, although it seems as if there were a lot of other people who paid extra for that perk on this flight, as there were many people who boarded before I did. But no big deal. I'm seated here in 2F. It's a window seat, and in typical Allegiant form, it's a little dirty. They didn't do a very good job of cleaning up between flights. Oh well. Anyway, it looks like this is Allegiant's newest interior, something I was not expecting. I didn't know these old A320s were going to get the upgrade treatment, but all in all, this looks really nice. It kind of reminds me of the stylish EasyJet cabins. And yes, I think those cabins are stylish, but all in all, the legroom in these seats is excellent. So, kind of a surprise. Everything's a little bit dirty, but the extra legroom combined with the really nice looking seats is making this a pretty nice experience so far. Yes, we are delayed. We're about 30 minutes behind schedule at this point. But yeah, I can't complain. It's a very basic seat, as you can see. There are no video screens, and there aren't even any power ports. No USB ports or full-size electrical outlets. So this isn't exactly what I'd call luxury. Having an open middle seat next to me, though, was a big deal. I like that. But to be honest, I was kind of expecting it. This flight was on a Monday, and I wasn't really expecting a lot of people from Flint to be going to Vegas, which is a vacation destination, on a Monday afternoon. So the middle seat didn't surprise me all that much, but it was hard not to appreciate. We ended up pushing off the gate at 2:22 p.m., which is about 30 minutes behind schedule. But at the Flint Bishop International Airport, no biggie, I guess. There's no other traffic here. And taxiing out to the runway, looks like we're going to runway 27 here. But yeah, taxiing out to the runway is always quick. There's never any drama, unless you're flying Allegiant, of course. And then you just got to be ready for anything. By the way, I'd like to mention that I have a newsletter that you might be interested in. It's something that I send out just about once a month, and it contains a lot of information about the trips that I take, some behind-the-scenes information, and just my thoughts on the airline industry as a whole. I have a lot of fun writing it, and not only that, it's a good way to stay in touch with you, the reader, my audience. So I highly encourage signing up for that if you want to stay in touch. As you can see, the weather was absolutely perfect today, and the captain announced that the weather was going to be really good all the way across the country, except for the arrival into Las Vegas, where he said it was going to be a little bit gnarly, a little bit windy, but don't worry about that when I get there. For now, it's time to enjoy that Allegiant Extra experience, which included a free snack. As you just saw, it was a bag of pretzels, which, if you ask me, is a pretty darn far cry from all these things you see here in the menu. The menu is extensive, and there are lots of things to choose from, whether you're looking for alcohol, or soda pop, or snacks, or chocolate bars, or pretzels, except for in-flight entertainment. There is absolutely none on Allegiant Air, not even in Allegiant Extra here. There's no Wi-Fi, there's no streaming videos, there's no streaming audio. You basically got to bring your own stuff. And I didn't have anything with me other than podcasts and music, so that's all I had to keep me entertained. Although I will say that this extra legroom is living up to its promise. This is really comfortable, actually. Cannot complain about this at all, especially having an open middle seat next to me. Being able to cross my legs here and stretch out just a little bit is pretty nice. The seats are really hard though, so don't go thinking that this is going to be a totally luxurious experience. It's not. This is as basic as it gets, almost, even with all that extra leg room. And I will say that this is a lot better than the standard seats. I've flown Allegiant Air standard economy before, and this is a huge improvement over that. Don't get me wrong. It's just nowhere even close to what a typical domestic U.S. first class seat would be on one of the main carriers like United, American, or Delta. However, the lavatories are pretty much the same. I bet you anything, you could show that to anybody, and they wouldn't be able to tell you which airline that is. One of the things that I was most looking forward to about this flight is the fact that this is the longest Allegiant Air flight that I've ever taken in my entire life. Takeoff to touchdown was 4 hours and 1 minute, which is a really long way to go on a low-cost carrier with minimal service. I actually brought my own snacks with me because I had a suspicion that they wouldn't be coming through the cabin with more snacks prior to landing. And surprise, surprise, I was right. The cabin crew wasn't very active for most of the flight, which I didn't really expect them to be, and I think that's the biggest takeaway from this entire experience is that you kind of got to go into it with low expectations if you want to have a good time. And that's exactly what I did. I wasn't really expecting much. I knew it was going to be a very basic, no-frills experience. That's exactly what I got, in addition to a really nice-looking cabin, which I wasn't expecting. So, all in all, it wasn't that bad. Anyway, it is 3:41 p.m. now as we land on runway 19R, which is about 35 minutes late, if I recall correctly. So that is a typical Allegiant Air experience. I was totally expecting to be delayed. But in this case, I don't think it's entirely fair to put the blame on Allegiant Air. As I mentioned earlier, the winds here today were really bad, to the point where there were arrival delays and departure delays. I had a connection over to San Diego after this flight, which was delayed 4 hours. All because of the winds, so it was a little bit crazy. And finally, to wrap this up, I just want to say that I'm glad that I did this. It wasn't a completely luxurious experience. I knew it wasn't going to be, but having an open middle seat next to me and being in this nice new cabin was actually kind of nice. I appreciated the snack. The extra leg room was really good. No complaints about that. And most importantly, I don't think I'm ever going to be afraid of flying Allegiant Air all the way across the country again. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.